Hey, and welcome to another episode of Rankum. This is going to be a fun one because it's Broadway musicals and everyone loves Broadway musicals. I've only really not seen a lot of them. I've probably only really seen Hamilton because it was streaming. But which is why I'm not participating in the list. But participating in the list, we've got, for the first time, we've got Maxwell Haddad. Max, how's
Hello.
it going?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing good. And next up, you haven't seen him in a while, but it's Chris Clark. Chris, how's it going?
How you doing, Malcolm? This is going to be great. I love Broadway musicals. Musicals are amazing. I've been to a couple. I haven't been to everything. I'm basing this a lot on the soundtracks I've heard, just because I'm poor and I can't afford to go to things. Even though I'm like 90 minutes from New York, I haven't been able to go to a lot of shows. But the ones I did have go to are on my list, and they're phenomenal. But also, I'm basing it a lot on soundtracks, so it's going to be fun.
And next up, we've got PJ Campbell. PJ, how's it going?
I'm really happy to be here. It's good to see you guys. I'm with a bunch of my favorite people talking about one of my all-time favorite things. So for me, this is a perfect way to spend my Saturday.
And next up, you can't see him, but you can hear him. It's Richard Schwartz. Richard, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm excited to finally use my theater degree. For once, I have seen a lot of musicals. I haven't seen them all, but kind of like Chris, I've listened to a lot of soundtracks when it comes to musicals, so some of my list will be based on that as well, but I'm sure you guys are going to pick some great ones just like I'm going to as well.
But yeah, how the show works is we go around and everyone's going to throw out a musical they think belongs on a top 12 list. Because we're really short on time, it may end up being a shorter list, but it's one of those ones. We'll see what happens as it happens.
So,
And because it's a four-person panel, effectively, the person nominating the vote won't count. Will come down to the other three to decide if it makes the list. So, and I'm going to start with Max. Max, what is the first musical you're going to bring up?
Well, this should be no surprise to anyone who knows me at all, but the first musical I'm going to bring up is Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. In fact, you could see a poster for it right here behind me. I think it's one of the most brilliant musicals ever written. It takes about a 100-page slice of the classic Russian novel War and Peace, and it turned it into a fully immersive electro pop opera musical that I think broke every rule that can be broken in musical theater in a delightful way. I'm a huge fan. I actually have a tattoo of it on my arm. That's my first one.
Chris, what do you say about Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812?
well, actually, Max mentioned that I think in one of the shows we were on, I think, and I actually went into and I looked it up after that stream, and what it grabbed me by was just like not just the quality of the songs, but just the song titles are epic. And I wish I could see that live on stage, and it just has that kind of engrossing personality that exudes. So I would just say yes, amen to that. I want to see this in person because all I heard was the music, and it's phenomenal, and I love opera, so it's my kind of thing. Yeah.
PJ, what do you say about Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812?
If it wasn't for Max, I probably never actually would have gotten to hear this cast album for this. He was the one who had brought it up to me and was like, you need to listen to this. This thing is amazing, and I really want you to see it, or at least listen to it. And I fell in love with it. I think it's fantastic and wonderful and everything that Maxwell said, and I think it absolutely deserves to be on the list.
And Richard, what you've said about Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812?
I've honestly never heard of it, but it sounds fantastic, so I would have said yes just based on word of mouth. I just never heard of it. Sounds great, though.
But with that, it does make the list, and Chris, we go to you. I think Chris is frozen.
I believe
fixing
Chris.
something with my internet.
Yep, I believe Chris is currently frozen.
Is that your entry, Chris? Frozen the musical?
I think that should be his. I mean, because he's frozen right now, being Frozen the musical only makes sense.
I don't know. It kind of has that Paranormal Activity, the musical kind of vibe.
The
But
unauthorized musical, at least.
But anyway, while we wait for Chris, PJ, I'll get you to go next.
So my choice is one that shouldn't shock a whole lot of people, depending on how well you know me and the stuff that I listen to. And this is actually a very recent musical, but it's one that I fell in love with the moment that I walked into the theater, and it's one I have not stopped falling in love with since we left, and that is Beetlejuice the musical. I think Beetlejuice the musical is everything that you could possibly hope for an adaptation of an IP that people really like, but also it's just like a very meta take on the Broadway musical in general and the way that it handles the whole being dead thing. And I just think there's a really strong rock vibe to it that gets overlooked a lot. It's just a lot of fun. I think it really offers something special and unique for a lot of different reasons for newcomers to Broadway, as well as people who just already love musicals. It just means a lot to me, and I'm going to put that out there for my list.
But Chris, what do you, Max, what do you say about Beetlejuice the musical?
Well, so the fact is, I went and I took PJ to see Beetlejuice.
Yes.
He never would have seen it if not for me.
It's true.
And I saw it a couple of times, and I think it's a really, really good musical. It's a great adaptation of the movie. I always enjoyed the experience. And if we were talking about a top 25 or a top 50, yeah, I'd throw it on there. But since we're talking about all-time greatest Broadway musicals, sadly, it's going to be a pass for me.
Richard, what do you say about Beetlejuice the musical?
I have not seen Beetlejuice musical. I have not even heard the music. I've heard people. I have my friends who have seen it, and I've gotten mixed reviews. So half my friends really liked it. Others just said it was just okay. Like there were kind of problems with it. So I'm going to say no because like this is only a top 12, and I think there are better musicals that need to be on here than Beetlejuice musical. Though
Yeah,
I want to see it though for sure.
Yeah,
With all love, PJ, all love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with that, Beetlejuice doesn't make it on, and until Chris comes back, what will happen is the person nominating their vote will matter for the until Chris comes back. So make it count. Richard, what is your next first nomination?
My first nomination is going to be Wicked. Wicked obviously is based, like a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. The Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda. It's such a great musical. Idina Menzel did fantastic as the Wicked Witch. Alphaba. You have songs like Popular, What Is This Feeling, Defying Gravity, probably my favorite out of this musical. No Good Deed, As Long As You're Mine. I mean, there's a lot of songs. They're just catchy. What Is the Feeling is also one of my favorite. And The Wizard and I. It's just a fantastic musical. It's been brought back so many times because people love it, and it actually kind of brought people back in love with Wizard of Oz because there was a point where Wizard of Oz kind of died out. So this is my nomination is Wicked.
Max, what do you say about Wicked?
This is another musical that PJ and I actually saw together.
This is true.
Perhaps under the influence of something. I love Wicked. I've seen it probably more than any other musical just because it's like a comfort show. Like you can always come back to it and always have a good time. It didn't make my list, but I am actually going to vote yes because I think it's a great emblematic show of like the last 20 years of musical theater. It's clearly beloved worldwide, and the songs are pretty banging. The Wizard and I being my favorite song in the musical.
PJ, what would you have said about Wicked?
Yeah, I have a hard time going against Wicked. Initially, it wasn't one that I had put on my list, not as any slight. I love the musical. I've seen it multiple times. Again, the last time I got to see it was with Maxwell, and we had a great time going. I think the music is fantastic. I think it really had the staying power of, a very important staying power for a reason. There's a reason people love it so much. There's a reason so many people want to see it adapted into a movie. It does have a special place, and I think that it'd be, if we're talking top 12, at least as far as this list goes, I think at least it should break that top 12.
Yep. But with that, we go back to Max.
Okay, so the next one I'm going to nominate is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. I would argue that Stephen Sondheim is the most talented composer of musicals, if not of all time, certainly of the last 50 years. And I think Sweeney Todd is his shining jewel. It's everything you could love in horror: murder, blood, deliciously dark backstories, melodramatic characters, and just incredibly gorgeous Gothic music. I love it. I think should be on the list.
PJ, what do you say about Sweeney Todd?
my internet? I can't hear anything. There it goes. Sorry, guys. I mean, I have. How do I say no to Sweeney Todd? Sweeney Todd is one of the all-time great anything. I think that every version of it has something to offer, no matter how many times I've seen it. I think that every adaptation has been different in some sort of way, whether it was on stage, over the numerous different casts, or even with what Tim Burton did. And I know that movie itself gets a little bit of flack, but I think that, for a film adaptation, it is quite special. But I mean, it really just boils down to Sweeney Todd is one of the all-time great musicals, and we can't say no to it.
Richard, what do you have said about Sweeney Todd?
I really like Sweeney Todd, but surprisingly, it's not for the songs, but the story is so good in this. Like, there's like a few songs that are like very memorable, but the story itself is so memorable. It's so good, so dark. Just that ending, though, is like, it's just like, it breaks my soul. It is a yes for me. Because even though I'm not a fan of the songs, it's a great freaking play. So it definitely should be. Even though my other friends, like other people, do love it, and I understand why.
But with that, we go back to PJ for your next nomination.
There's one that we cannot overlook, I think, and that is going to be Rent. Rent is, for me, one of the great rock albums, or like rock operas of all time. And I know that it kind of blazed a narrative trail doing that when it came out. And it just really speaks to me in a lot of ways. I think the music is really incredible. Everyone knows just the opening song alone. Like, you start to hear the opening of the music, and immediately you're like, oh, I know where we're at. Like, I love Rent so much. I know that it is a little dated now in certain ways and could be considered problematic, but I think still for its time, there is a reason that it was so beloved and a reason it was so special, and it continues to be to this day. So Rent is going to be mine.
Richard, what do you say about Rent?
Rent is in my top 3 favorite musicals of all time. It was actually going to be my next nomination. It's just a fantastic play. And I disagree when he says it's outdated. It is not outdated. Like, some of the songs are like Take Me or Leave Me is probably my favorite song of Rent. And The Tango Marine is great. Seasons of Love, probably one of the most iconic musical songs of all time. It's a yes, very much yes for me.
Max, what do you have said about Rent?
Rent's interesting because I probably wouldn't be the Broadway and musical theater fan that I am without Rent. It was super formative for me, as I think it was for anyone who would be categorized as a millennial. I think the songs are incredible. Jonathan Larson was ahead of his time in his songwriting, and it's endured for so long, and it's such a tragedy what happened to him. As I've gotten older, I do have some issues with the characterizations. Yeah. And I do think that's partly because they put the show on Broadway without finishing it because Jonathan sadly passed away. It doesn't really matter what I vote because it made the list, so I'll say sure. I'm glad I didn't have to be the deciding one because it's one that's just on the fence for me because I have conflicted feelings about it. But the songs are incredible.
But Richard, was the next musical you're going to nominate?
I'm just going to throw this out there now. I saw this last week when it debuted on Disney Plus, and it's probably easily became one of my favorite musicals of all time, Hamilton. I mean, the music itself is just fantastic. Take My Shot, Helpless, and Wait For It are my 2 favorite songs from that. You also have Right Hand Man. It's a beautiful, fantastic story written. A lot of people who complained about this when it first aired obviously have not seen it because when you watch it, it's remarkable. The music's fantastic. The pacing is fantastic. The characters are fantastic. And they're singing throughout the whole musical. And you just get so embodied throughout this whole, like the whole show. You get focused in. So Hamilton is in my nominated.
I mean, this is probably going to be relatively easy, but Max, what do you say about Hamilton?
I can't say no to this. And if you've seen it, you get the reference. Yeah, it's an easy yes. I'm lucky enough to have seen it. I saw it off Broadway at the Public Theater. I saw it a bunch of times on Broadway. I think it's really incredible. And I'm super glad now that it's so accessible that everyone is getting the opportunity to see it, especially with the original cast. I think it's phenomenal, yes.
PJ, what would you have said about Hamilton?
I mean, yeah, this is a easy yes for me. Hamilton is, beloved for a reason. We've all come to love it for such a specific reason. The music is amazing. It's timely. It speaks to all of us in very specific ways. There's nothing bad to say about the show. And to what Maxwell just said, I'm so glad it's finally accessible to so many people when originally it wasn't. And I think that is a very, very good thing. And I'm just happy that we can all love it together.
I will like to say though, like I didn't see it at all. I didn't even listen to the music because my theater friends kept on overhyping this play, and I was afraid if I listened to music, I wouldn't enjoy it. But when I saw it on Disney Plus, like if anything, they underhyped it. That's how good like this musical was.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what I can actually talk about because just like Richard, I also kind of went in without listening to the music just for that same reason, but it's really good, and I really hope they do this with more musicals from now on, make them more accessible. But with that, Richard, what is your next nomination? Max,
That was mine. That was my nomination.
Yeah, no, Max, what is your next nomination?
It's fun. Every time I do a show like this, I always have an idea as to what order I'm going to go in. But then at the fact that we already have 5 shows that have made the list, you have to become more strategic with what shows you pitch. That being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and do Cabaret, the classic Candor and Ebb musical, which I think is brilliant. It has jazzy music. It deals with wartime and the Nazis and outsiders in this club in Berlin trying to find their way through the horrors of the war. It means a lot to me on a personal level. I also think the songs are some of the best ever written for the stage. Every production I've seen of it is super sexy and stylish, and like the juxtaposition between that sexy stylishness and the World War II based story always makes for a really overwhelming experience when you see it, because it leaves you sort of reeling and trying to go in your head about what you've seen and what it's about. I also think, as an aside, it's one of the best film adaptations of a musical as well.
PJ, what do you say about Cabaret?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that eventually Cabaret was going to be brought up in some way, shape, or form. It is one of the all-time great musicals, just period. I think the music is amazing. I think that it deals with a lot of interesting sides of the war in the way that Max was just talking about. I think it absolutely belongs on the list.
Richard, what would you have said about Cabaret?
Yeah, it's a very good musical. The funny thing is, like, every time I think of Cabaret, I think of another musical, just because the name kind of reminds me of this other musical I might nominate or not. But yeah, it's a fantastic musical. I love the songs, and like, there's nothing much. I would have said yes as well.
And with that, we go back to PJ. PJ, what is your next nomination?
So let's see. Looking at this now, kind of what Max just said, we start having to now be more strategic. Hey, that's enough. Thank you. Sorry, corgis barking. I'm going to go with my all-time favorite musical. It's one that I put off a little bit before we got here, but I think I have to do it because we do have to be strategic about where we're at now, and that is Alan Menken's Little Shop of Horrors. Little Shop of Horrors, of course, based on the B movie by Roger Corman, became a off-Broadway smash hit only to become a Broadway smash hit. And now it has become one of the most beloved musicals maybe of all time. The music is incredible. It is one of the great Faustian stories of our time about someone who will sell their soul to the devil for the one fame and, that feeling of fame and fortune that they've always been looking for, only to realize maybe it's not necessarily worth it to dance with the devil. I just think it's so incredible. It's just got a B movie vibe that works on so many levels. The music is amazing. I mean, how do you not go with Little Shop?
Richard, what do you say about Little Shop of Horrors?
I like Little Shop of Horrors. There's just one song that's like very memorable, and just for me personally, someone who grew up in the theater world, like this and Rocky Horror Picture Show always gets played to death. However, that being said, I do love Little Shop of Horror. Even though I only think of one song, the plays are actually really good. I will say yes. So I know if this means a lot to you, I will gladly have the song for you.
Max, what would you have said about Little Shop of Horrors?
Yeah, I also would have said yes. I think Little Shop is fantastic. Alan Menken's songs are iconic, and I think the impact and legacy this show has had on the current generation of musical theater writers cannot be overstated. I think you can trace back a lot of the careers of people now writing musicals to their love for Little Shop of Horrors. It's a yes.
But with that, we go back to Richard.
I'm thinking. I'm going to go with the Book of Mormon. It is what I have not actually seen the play, but I have the music on my iPod, and it's fantastic. It's the creators of the people, Trey, obviously Matt Stone and Trey Parker from South Park. But from what I've seen from the music is so good. 2x2, Hello, I Believe, Man Up. From what I've heard from my friends who have seen it, it is fantastic. Like, even people like the Mormon religion who were hesitant to see it because it makes fun of their faith, they also loved it. And I mean, it was just fantastically done, and it still is going on, and people still are talking about it to this day. So Book of Mormon is my nomination.
Max, what do you say about the Book of Mormon?
I know it's really popular, but I'm not a big fan of Book of Mormon. I think the songs are just okay, and I think it has some deep-rooted problems that I'm not going to get into on this show, but I'm going to pass on it.
PJ, what do you say about the Book of Mormon?
Yeah, I really like Book of Mormon, but if we're talking at this point, we're down to our kind of like last 6 or so options, and I wouldn't necessarily put Book of Mormon in my top 15. Maybe if we were talking like top 30, I could maybe swing it in there. But I also, to much of Max's point, as I've gotten farther away from it, and the more that I listen to it, and I used to enjoy it more, I also find it a little bit problematic in a couple of other ways. And that is part of learning to grow with art, is being able to spot problems like that and maybe, looking at things in another way. And that is certainly gone a long way in how I overall feel about the show. So it's going to be a pass for me. Not, no disrespect, Richard. Just one of those things.
No worries. We're all just, trying to get the best list possible.
Yeah. But with that, we go back to Max. What is your next nomination?
Let's see. I think I'm going to go with Ragtime from 1998. I think Ragtime is an incredible musical that has 3 concurrent stories at the turn of the century about Black people, Jewish immigrants, and then white people who are from the New York area. I think, and it weaves in historical characters like Harry Houdini and Henry T. Ford in a really epic way that also feels organic. I think the songs are absolutely incredible, and I think it's one of the most moving musicals I've ever had the chance to see. So that's my choice, Ragtime.
PJ, what do you say about Ragtime?
Ragtime's a huge yes for me. Ragtime is one that I've actually been dying to get, see any updated version of at this point, because it is so topical. It is so timely. The music is incredible. It's moving. The way that it deals with race relations and things like that in this country, especially right now, it could really go a long way, in my opinion, in trying to help show a narrative of the things that continue to happen to this day. And the fact that something like that could still to this day feel so emblematic of a time and how much we need it, I think there's no reason not to have Ragtime on this list.
Yeah, and not to interrupt too much, but I think if there's any musical that deserves to be turned into a major motion picture today, it's Ragtime.
Richard, what would you have said about Ragtime?
I have actually not seen Ragtime, and I've always wanted to. So, from listening to what you've been talking about it would have been a yes for me, just because it sounds fantastic.
With that, I believe it's Richard's turn to nominate.
I think it's PJ, right?
Yeah, Maxwell just did Ragtime.
Yeah.
I mean, funny that you would bring up a movie that, you think should be turned into a film, because the one that I am about to throw out here is one that was just recently turned into a film, and now we are waiting on pins and needles to see, and that is Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights. Also equally as timely, I think, dealing with people in New York and Washington Heights in the midst of gentrification and a changing world around them, and what that does to an entire generation of people. Again, just very timely, very important, and I'm even more excited now for the movie adaptation because they've even updated it further to kind of deal with the times that we have already moved away from since it originally premiered. And it is so wonderful. It is so memorable. It is got great characters, fantastic music. It's hard for me to not want to go In the Heights.
In the Heights is on the table. Richard, what do you say about In the Heights?
Oh, it's absolutely, yes. I love that play. I love the musical. I read it when I was in college. I saw the play. It's fantastic. Just all I have to say. Yes.
Max, what do you have said about In the Heights?
Well, I mean, it's made it. I would have. So I love In the Heights. I would even say personally, In the Heights means more to me than Hamilton. It was one of the shows I saw a lot when I first moved to New York after graduate school. I think it's brilliant. I advocate in these sorts of lists to try and stay away from not having more than one show by the same composer to spread the love a little bit, which is why with only 4 slots left, I would have voted no, but not because I don't love the show, just because I'm strategizing a little bit. But that being said, I'm happy it made the list. I have the poster of it on my wall over there that you can't see, so fine by me.
But with that, we do have 3 spots left. Richard, what do you say? What is your next nomination?
All right, so I'm looking at this list, and we have some very deep, memorable, like really gritty, like very like inspirational musicals. But we definitely need one that's just so much fun. And speaking of movies, the movie that they made of this musical was just trash because they took the best elements away from this musical. That made it so unique and fantastic. And my nomination is Into the Woods. It is so funny. It is so touching. The narration, like the narrator, is one of my favorite parts when he gets killed by a giant. They took that out. That pissed me off. But the music in itself is so good. Into the Woods, Hello Little Girl, Giants in the Sky, No More, Agony. It's so funny. But at the time, there are moments where it is very deep. It has a touching story, but it's all. In conclusion, overall, it's a light, fun musical that definitely needs to break in this top 12 because, yes, inspirational musicals are great, but just having a good time for a musical is what the main thing about theater is, being entertained and having fun. So that is my nomination, Into the Woods.
Into the Woods is on the table. Max, what do you say?
So I have a couple thoughts about this. First of all, it's interesting to me to hear you describe it as light and fun, because the first act is definitely light and fun, but then what I think is one of the brilliant things about the show and why there was a lot of controversy surrounding it when it first opened is how the second act flips that lightness on its head and really goes into a deep, dark place that you wouldn't necessarily expect to see with characters like Cinderella. But I'm going to be a bit of a party pooper and go off of based of what I said with In the Heights. And because we already have a Stephen Sondheim musical on the list in Sweeney Todd, I'm going to pass. No slight on the show. I think it's great. Just playing a little game here, you know.
PJ, what do you say about Into the Woods?
I'm one of the people who I like In the Woods fine. I'm not as big of a fan of it as others. And for me, it's one. Okay, we're good. Thank you. It's one that just, I don't know, man. It just never spoke to me in the same way that it speaks to a lot of others. And I think that the superior Stephen Sondheim film musical is already on here. And I'm not gonna. I can't do it. It's for me. It's just not one that really speaks to me.
But for that, we go back to Max.
Okay, so I do agree that we should have something a little lighter and more fun on the list. And for that, I'm going to pitch Mel Brooks's The Producers. The Producers, based on the classic film with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder, is one of the funniest laugh per minute musical comedies of the last 30 years. There's a reason why this show at the time won more Tony Awards than any show ever had. There's a reason why the idea of the premium ticket model where certain seats in the orchestra are like fucking, sorry, I don't know if you guys like cursing on this channel, I apologize, astronomically expensive compared to, like, this was the first show to sell $400 tickets, but it's also just pure joy. It's hilarious. Nathan Lane's performance is iconic. The songs are so catchy and fun. I love the producers, and I would love to see it on the list.
PG, what do you say about the producers?
I adore this choice because I do love the producers. I love Mel Brooks, and not just Nathan Lane. I mean, I think Matthew Broderick is equally as iconic in a lot of ways for his character, because that it's not easy to play, especially every night, trying to play a character who is just so neurotically crazy and over the top all the time. And like, even the movie, to a point, the movie's not perfect, but captures a lot of that zany energy that you hope from him. And it was just such a different type of thing. It's a love letter to Broadway in so many ways. Like, it just works for me. I'm gonna give it a yes.
Richard, what would you have said about the producers?
I actually would have said no. I love the play. However, the music's not memorable at all. I can't think of one, like maybe Springtime with Hitler. That's like the most popular one. But like, I gave a pass for Sweeney Todd because the play itself for Sweeney Todd was so great. Producers, it's funny. It's great. But like, you didn't put Book of Mormon. You can't put producers. But yeah, it doesn't matter. John Lewis anyway.
Well, I would argue the producers walked so Book of Mormon could run. It's very much in the same sort of mold, I think. But I think, and that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, I'd say I love the Cooper and Fuji episode where they did the producers.
Yes. There's that iconic gif of Jerry when he's just like, and he gets up. I use that all the time.
But PJ, we go back to you for your next nomination.
All right. So what, we got 2 slots left, right?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
All right. There is one that I think that we have to talk about. And I'm surprised it's taken this long, but it's also because the spots are filling up very quick. And that is Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Opera is one of the greatest musicals of all time. Andrew Lloyd Webber really needs to have a spot on this list, I think, in one way or another. There's a reason he continues to be so influential. And I mean, it's arguably maybe one of the most lavish productions you can see. It was the very first Broadway musical I ever saw in New York, and it blew my mind as a 14-year-old kid to see that on stage. The chandelier falling in that very, just everything about it, when it comes up at the beginning, when it falls again, like everything about Phantom is just so spectacular. The music is gorgeous. It has continued to stay for a reason, and we got the most lavish version of it on film that you could ever think of. Thank you to Joel Schumacher, who
rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. Like, he made sure that it was as lavish and as fucking just gaudy as you could possibly hope it would be. And so for me, Phantom of the Opera we had to talk about it, at least to potentially be on here.
Yeah. But Richard, what do you say about Phantom of the Opera?
You guys are probably gonna hate me, but I hate this musical. I found it when I first saw it. I found it extremely boring. Like, the music is very, very lovely, but like, I wasn't a fan of it. So it's gonna be a no for me. But I'm sure it's gonna be on this list. So I'm not a fan of it.
But Max, what do you say about
Phantom of the Opera is not going to be on this list. I like it fine. I certainly respect its impact and its staying power. I think some of the songs are really lovely, but I am not a huge Andrew Lloyd Webber fan, and I want to save those 2 spots for something else. Sorry, PJ. Nothing personal.
All good.
Oh, there he is. I was like, we lost our host. Oh, no.
My computer is weird and everything went tiny. But anyway, we go back to Max. Richard.
I think Richard.
Yeah. All right. We only got 2 spots left, and just like, the person before me, if he wanted to put Phantom of the Opera because it's such a popular musical, I got to put the other probably most famous and popular musical on here, Les Miserables. The music itself is just some of the best music of musicals of all time. Who Am I Dreamed of Dream, One Day More, The Confrontation, Javert Suicide. Like, the play itself, the French Revolution, there are some funny moments. depressing moments, heart-wrenching moments, touching moments. The songs itself are played beautifully. The movie was okay, like the newer one. Not the greatest. Russell Crowe can't sing for crap. However, the Broadway musical was amazing. It is redone over and over again for a reason. People sing "I Dream a Dream" over and over, multiple cover songs for a reason, and that I think it definitely has to be on. From when talking about best musicals, definitely has to be on here.
Max, what do you say about Les Miserables?
So I like Les Mis quite a bit. There's another musical by these composers that I like a bit more that came out around the same time and was also the big melodramatic mega musical, but I don't think that has any shot at making it. And I'd like to see this style of musical represented. So I'm going to say yes.
PJ, what would you have said about Les Mis?
Similar to how Richard feels about Phantom, this is how I feel about Les Mis. I don't necessarily hate it, but it doesn't really speak to me. I'm not huge on it, so I'm glad it made the list though, because there's a reason it's iconic. It's not for me.
That's fair. You can't like every musical. No one.
No, of course not.
So just to make sure, Phantom didn't make the list.
Correct.
No, it did not.
So we have one slot left, which is
But there we go to Max.
nerve-wracking. Oh God, it's up to. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Do I go for like an easy home run or something a little more challenging? I don't know.
I mean, I really like our list right now, so I think.
All right. So okay. I think I'd like to see some Disney representation on this list, so I'm going to go Newsies. I think Newsies is a blast of a musical. That I think it took a movie that was really good in idea and concept and a little flawed in execution and brought out the best of the material. The dance numbers were some of the most athletic and beautifully choreographed I've seen. I think Alan Menken's songs are terrific. And I realize I'm breaking my own rule with not having multiple musicals by the same composer, seeing as how we have another Alan Menken show. But I, for some reason, always think of Newsies as Disney more than Alan Menken. Yeah, I just think it's an incredibly fun musical with amazing dancing. And much like Hamilton, it is available to stream and watch and is super accessible. I don't know if it was on Netflix. Is it on Disney Plus now? It was on Netflix.
It is.
Yeah, so you can watch it on Disney Plus if you haven't seen it.
It was on Netflix for like the longest time too.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it had switched over because those like streaming contracts are so confusing at this point now that there's like 45 fucking streaming services you can sign up for. Peacock, HBO Max, like I can't even keep track anymore.
Yeah.
Coming soon, the E-Entertainment Network streaming service.
Oh God.
But PJ, what do you say about Newsies?
This was actually going to be the next one that I threw out there, so I'm glad that Maxwell got to do it. I really, really love Newsies, and I think that we should have, again, a little bit of a lighthearted version or like a lighthearted play, something that makes you feel good. The music's amazing. It's a Disney production. It's actually like the only Disney production we got on here, which is pretty amazing in and of itself, considering how many Broadway musicals they themselves have done. And it just really is great. Seize the Day is one of the all-time great Broadway moments, in my opinion. It's a big yes.
Yep. And with that, we come to the end of this. PJ, do you have any honorable mentions?
I mean, I definitely had a few that I thought about throwing out there. One would have been An American in Paris, which I've always loved and adored. I think it's a really great musical, more so almost for the choreography than the actual music itself, but it's still really, really great. Moulin Rouge, a more recent one, I think has been really fantastic. Even though I'm not big on jukebox musicals, there's something very special about that one. And one that I wanted to shout out a little bit more because of the recent passing of Nick Cordero, but also just because I really, really love it, is A Bronx Tale, also by Alan Menken. And I know that's like a very controversial opinion within the space of musical theater lovers, but something about A Bronx Tale continues to speak to me no matter what. And with the passing of Nick Cordero, I would be not very wise to at least not bring it up.
Richard, did you have any honorable mentions?
I did, but I just want to talk about Newsies real quick. I would have said yes, first of all, but however, I'm the person who likes the movie more than the play. I was so pissed when they changed the lyrics of "Seize the Day" and it's a fine life, or Carrying the Matter. When they changed the lyrics, I was super pissed. but the play is musical itself. However, my nomination, if that didn't get through, was going to be Shrek the Musical. I really enjoyed that play. I love the songs. Once on This Island, it was on my list, but I didn't think you guys probably saw it because hardly anyone has.
No, the recent revival of Once on This Island I saw like 7 times. It was stunning. It's a great musical. I might have said yes to that.
Yeah, I also had Avenue Q on my list, Hairspray, Grease, but I was like, But I will say, if someone had mentioned Cats, I would have said hell freaking no.
I don't think you don't have to worry about that with us. No.
Okay, just making sure, because that is I never saw the movie because the play itself is freaking horrible. Memories is the only decent song. That's it. Okay, that's it. All I had for my nominations.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of Broadway people who really hate the Cats. But
it is amazing to me that show became so popular because I think it is so it's not good, guys.
It was the 80s, man. Anything flew in the 80s.
Me personally, I don't understand it. I've watched, like, my dad loved it. He's had it on DVD. I watched it more than once, and like, I don't get it.
There's nothing to get. It's a musical where cats sing about themselves and then it ends.
It's a fever dream. It's a fever dream.
But yeah, I mean, like in the Broadway bracket, I'm doing Titanic beat out Cats.
Yeah.
Oh, did I also say Gypsy? That was also a nomination I was going to throw out there.
Yeah, Gypsy's a great classic musical. I did that one in high school.
Oh,
so I did it in college.
One I did forget to throw out there, and I'd like to, is Fiddler on the Roof. Also, I really do love.
On the what?
Fiddler on the Roof.
On the what?
Roof.
It's
no.
Roof.
Whatever. Make fun of me all you want.
But makes the Jeopardy honorable mentions.
Yeah, I have a bunch of honorable mentions. So the other one I was nominating for the last slot was Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which I think is brilliant. I'm not sure if it would have gotten through, so I went with an easier choice. Miss Saigon, which is what I was alluding to earlier, by another musical by the same team behind Les Mis. Spring Awakening, which had a huge impact on me, and I think it's one of the great rock musicals of recent times. Hair, the classic 70s Vietnam War LSD-fueled concept extravaganza. A Chorus Line, which is one of the few musicals to ever win the Pulitzer Prize. And La Cage aux Folles, which I love, and was the basis for the great film The Birdcage, minus the songs.
I love La Cage. We were going to do that in college, but we switched it to Gypsy because we couldn't get the rights to it because they did the Broadway revival of it. I was so mad.
Yeah, the Broadway revival with Kelsey Grammer and Douglas Hodge is to this day one of the best productions I've ever seen. Everything about it was just so elegantly done. The performances, the costumes. They put the band in the boxes on the side of the theater, elevated as opposed to in the pit. It was just a stunning production.
But yeah, with that we come to the fun part where we get to rank these. So how we do that, we go around the panel, and they're going to either write down on a bit of paper or whiteboard, or just say it in Richard's case. But and for what they want at 12, 11, etc. So we're going to start with 12. PJ, what do you want for number 12?
All right. So looking over our list, just because for me, I'm not the biggest fan of it, I'm just going to say out the gate, I'd like to see Les Mis at number 12. It's on the list. I don't necessarily think it needs to be any higher.
Richard, what do you want for 12?
I'm just saying Natasha, just because I haven't seen it yet. That's the only one I just haven't seen.
Max, what do you want for number 12?
Wicked.
With that, we've got a three-way tie. So in the chat, put either Wicked, Les Mis, or Natasha here in the great comment at 1812. What do you want for number 12? I will give it a little bit of time. Otherwise, I will be the tiebreaker. Which I kind of already know where I'm going to lean towards for this. Actually, screw it. I'm going to be the tiebreaker just because why not? And I'm just not going to say it. I'm just going to put it up, and it's like that.
All right. That's what I like to see.
All right. We move on to 11. Richard, what do you want for number 11?
I'm just going to still put it out there, Natasha, just because I haven't seen it.
Max, what do you want for 11?
I'm going to stick with Wicked.
PJ?
I'll go ahead and go Wicked, just so we don't end up in a log jam. I'm comfortable with it being there.
Sure.
Wicked is going to be 11. We can move on to 10. And Max, what do you want for 10?
Newsies.
PJ.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with Newsies at 10.
Richard.
Honestly, I was gonna say, like, when he said Newsies, I was like, yeah, I agree. Newsies.
Yeah, Newsies is good. It's a good spot for it.
Newsies is going to be 10. And PJ, what do you want for 9?
All right, looking at this right now. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say Cabaret at 9.
Richard, what do you want for 9?
Natasha, Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812.
Max, what do you want for 9?
Let's end this now, and I'll just agree with Natasha so we can move on. It's number 1 in my heart and number 9 on this list, and I accept it.
But with that, PJ, what do you want for 8?
I think I just did Cabaret as mine, so I think it should be Richard.
Yeah.
Richard, what do you want for 8?
Looking at this list, I'm going to throw out there Little Shop of Horrors.
Max, what do you want for
Rent.
PJ, what do you want for 8?
I'll go ahead and go with Rent. That's a comfortable spot for it.
Rent is going to be 8. And with that, we go to Max. What do you want for 7?
I think The Producers is good at 7.
PJ, what do you want for 7?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that for The Producers. Why not?
This is there is so much less fighting than there tends to be on this type of show tonight. I don't know what something's in the water.
I mean, to be fair, we don't have a kill option either. So
True.
Yeah, true.
PJ, even though it doesn't matter, but what did you want? What did you put for 7?
What do you mean, Richard? Because I didn't get to say.
But this is what I meant.
Little Shop of Horrors still, but like I agree though. Like still, like that's fine. It's not like it's too crazy.
PJ, what do you want for 6?
Once again, I am going to be nominating Cabaret at number 6. I think that's a good spot for it.
Richard, what do you want for 6?
I believe Cabaret is still better than Little Shop of Horrors between the two plays, so Little Shop of Horrors is my nomination.
Max, what do you want for 6?
Wicked.
Did we already do Wicked?
Yeah, we did Wicked. Wicked's at 11.
11.
Oh, that's much better. So then, yeah, let's do Little Shop.
Everyone playing against me.
We're still saying it's the 6th best musical ever.
Even though it's not better than Red. No offense. It is nowhere better than Red.
Well,
Agree to disagree.
yeah, I don't know.
Little Shop of Horrors is going to be 6. I can't remember who I'm at, but PJ, what do you want for?
All right. I mean, I'm going to be the broken record at this point. Cabaret, I will nominate it 5 then.
Richard, what do you want for 5?
I agree with Cabaret being a 5. Cabaret is good for me.
Max, what do you have for 5?
Cabaret at 5 sounds fine to me. What's left?
We have
Hamilton, Sweeney Todd, In the Heights, and
Ragtime.
Ragtime.
Okay.
Okay.
Richard, what do you want for 4?
Sweeney Todd.
Max, what do you want for 4?
Hamilton.
PJ, what do you want for 4?
I'm going to go with Hamilton on that one.
Hamilton is going to be 4. Which means Max, what do you want for 3?
Sweeney Todd, In the Heights. What's the other one we have?
Ragtime.
Ragtime. Yeah, Ragtime.
PJ, what do you want for free?
3 seems good for ragtime.
And Richard, what would you have put for free?
I'm fine with Ragtime. This is one other one I haven't seen, but it sounds fascinating. So sure.
But with that, we've got In the Heights and Sweeney Todd. And instead of going for number 2, we're just going to go straight to number 1 because the other one becomes number 2 by default. PJ, what's your number 1 out of Sweeney Todd or In the Heights?
In the Heights for me.
Richard, your number 1 between Sweeney Todd and In the Heights?
100% In the Heights.
Max.
I would have gone Sweeney Todd, but it doesn't seem to matter.
No, Sweeney Todd is fantastic. I'm just comparing the two. In the Heights songs are more memorable than Sweeney Todd.
And don't forget, it is now the number 2 great musical of all time. The thing that you guys had to remind me with Little Shop. So, it's all good.
But with that, we have come to the end to recap our top 12 Broadway musicals. At 12, we've got Les Miserables. At 11, we've got Wicked. At 10, we've got Newsies. At 9, we've got Natasha Fair and the Great Comet of 1812. At 8, we've got Rent. At 7, we've got The Producers. At 6, we've got Little Shop of Horrors. At 5, we've got Cabaret. At 4, we've got Hamilton.
Wrong.
At 3, we've got Ragtime. At 2, we've got Sweeney Todd. And number 1, we've got In the Heights. So all in all, I think this is a great list. Like a lot of all these musicals I've actually heard of, so that's a plus.
The most important things, Cats, and Seussical the Musical did not even touch this list, so I am okay with it regardless.
I'm not gonna lie, I've heard a few songs from musical. I don't hate those songs, but PJ, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PJ_Campbell. You can find me pretty much every other night over at the PJ Campbell Network, where we do watch-alongs and bracket games on my show. We do all sorts of things over there. Come over, check it out. And, of course, please watch the movie Trivia Schmodown. I'm the head writer of the show over there. And, without you guys, the show doesn't exist. So thank you guys for the continued support.
Max, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Cinemaxwell. My Instagram is at Cinemaxwell Inc. I am also frequently on the PJ Campbell Network, including co-hosting my show, Front Center Mezzanine, with PJ every other Thursday, where we talk to talents from the Broadway community. Just this week, we interviewed for 2 hours Joe Iconis, who was Tony nominated for composing Be More Chill. It's a fascinating, excellent discussion, so go check that out. And I also sometimes have been known to help out writing for the Schmodown, so check that out too. The IG tournament is still going on. The singles tournament is getting ready to gear up. It's a fun, fascinating, all virtual COVID time in the Schmodown universe.
Yeah, season 7 ended up being very interesting for us.
Very interesting. Threw us all for a loop, but it's been real fun. The Star Wars tournament was fantastic.
Yeah,
I cannot express enough the amazing work the writers do. I think they don't get enough credit. Having to take what is just a series of 12 films and come up with enough questions for an entire tournament. And this is not the first time they've done Star Wars tournaments. It's very, very difficult. So all my respect and kudos to the writers.
I love you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, despite all the comments online I've seen about some of the questions, all the questions have been great. And like with some of the challenges, I've somewhat agreed with at times, but it's all in good fun. I mean, and all the writing is top notch, and but with that, Richard, where can people find you online?
They can find me on Facebook under Richard Schwartz, YouTube, Twitter under External Void. I haven't done YouTube in a while, but I'll eventually come back to it. And you'll find me at home in LA because of quarantine. I don't write for the Schmodown, but I know people personally who compete in it, so that's cool.
But you can find me over on Take 3 Productions. If you haven't subscribed. We're about 47 subscribers away from 1,000. So we're pretty close. But we over on the Facebook page at the moment, I'm doing a Broadway bracket competition. I've put up Jersey Boys versus Once today, which is going to be a lot of fun. I might put up another one later because I missed a day. But with that, and you can also find me over on Full Metal where we do trivia over there as well, and I watch a lot of questions over there too. But that we come to the end, and till next week, keep listing shit.